Back here on Opposites Attract, John Stanko and Anthony Carlo are keeping you all entertained with today's antics, and John still not handling that one well, him sitting there with a Yankee shirt on. But we have some basketball to talk about. The Nets will be cut down this evening, and this is where the bet all stemmed from, but the UConn Huskies and the Kentucky Wildcats will be squaring off in the NCAA championship.
I think it should be a great game tonight. Tip-off set for 9:10. First of all, that's an incredibly late tip. I don't know why the NCAA thinks that late of a tip is a good thing. It should be 8 o'clock in my mind, but that's a separate issue.
For us, it's a good thing for us.
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
We'll be able to watch it.
But 9-10 tip between the 7-seeded Connecticut Huskies and the 8-seeded Kentucky Wildcats. First of all, I want to say anyone saying that this is a Cinderella matchup, just be quiet. Because these are two of the most historic programs in college basketball.
Yeah. And
whether or not they are underseeded or whatnot, they're not Cinderella stories with the talent that they have on their team.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you.
So I just want to put that one to bed. This is not a Cinderella matchup. This is a good matchup. It's an unexpected matchup.
Unexpected, yes.
But it's not Cinderella. Let's not classify it as that.
There were upsets completed to get here. Correct.
Yes,
I mean, look at what you.
Butler is a Cinderella. George Mason getting to the Final Four is a Cinderella. VCU is a Cinderella. Not Kentucky, UConn.
You said it the best. An unheard of program, usually not used to success in a tournament like this, would be Cinderella. But both of these teams are used to it.
Yes, this is not a Cinderella matchup. Granted, it should be a fantastic game with two teams that have the clutch gene written all over them. What boggles my mind is UConn almost lost in the first round in overtime to St. Joe's. And then basically the rest of the way, they've been able to control the games for the most part and win by over 5 points in a significant margin, not having to win in the way Kentucky has with Aaron Harrison hitting that shot from the wing in back-to-back games to send them to the Final Four and now to the championship game.
That's true, and I know both of these teams have beaten, obviously good opponents. But if you look at UConn and how you mentioned St. Joe's almost lost, look who they came back to beat in the fashion of just in complete control for most of the game. I mean, it's been amazing how Kevin Ollie has taken this team, which I don't think is the most talented team, but has utilized this team in a way that they have been able to be more successful than names like Florida, who was predicted to win the whole thing, and Michigan State, who was another favorite to win the whole thing. And Shabazz Napier has been a huge part of it. There's no question about that.
Well, obviously.
But it's been the contributions from everybody else, in my opinion, that has been obviously the reason they've been able to make it this far.
Well, I mean, I think that another thing that really helped UConn was they went up against Villanova, who in my opinion was not worthy of a 2 seed. In my mind, I think they had a great record, but I don't think they had the talent that the other 2 seeds have.
Right.
So they got that lucky break. And then I believe they went to go play Iowa State without Niang, their starting center, 7-foot center. So they went up against a banged-up Cyclones team. And then they did beat Michigan State. Credit to them, Michigan State, an incredibly talented team.
Yeah.
But you want to know why they were able to beat Michigan State? They played 2 home games at MSG. They played 2 home games. Their regional were home games.
All right, but let me ask
Think about that.
Yeah,
they played an hour away from their home facility.
Yeah, but no, I understand that. We brought that up in the first, when we were talking about that, how it is a pretty big plus to have the fans like that. But I don't think you could take that. I don't think, in other words, you can put an extreme amount of emphasis on that, on why they won. Is that what you want to do? That
I think you can definitely chalk up a reason for their victories to being in the crowd, because they were down in both games to Iowa State and especially Michigan State. Michigan State came out in that second half against UConn, and I believe at one point had like an 8-point lead, and they seemed to be handling it. If your crowd's not behind you in the game like that, you can fall behind by more. But if your crowd starts chanting defense, 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 getting you amped up, you can get back in the game, and I think that's what happened.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's in my mind. Now UConn, you can't blame UConn for it because they got lucky with their draw. You can't blame them for it. No. They took advantage of it, and now they're in the Final Four. They did have to beat Florida, and they dominated Florida in the second half. Absolutely dismantled them.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, to me, when you put it on paper, they beat, in my opinion, 2 favorites to win the whole thing. And when it's all said and done, that's the answer. they beat two favorites to win the whole thing to get here.
I mean,
So you know what I'm saying?
I am.
So in other words, like, by all means they earned it. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying they didn't earn it. Listen, they still had to play basketball.
Yeah.
They still did so. But Mike Ritz worked the MSG games. He was there for
Did
the
he
Sweet
really?
16 and the Elite Eight in MSG. He worked it. He got
Wow.
sound bites at the end of the game. He says for both games UConn was there, it was a 90% to 10% UConn crowd advantage.
Yeah, I
That's
believe
a home
it.
game.
I believe it. Yeah,
That's a home
believe
game
it.
in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight.
I believe it. I believe it. It does give them. It gives a lot of help to a team who's down, like you said.
Listen,
I agree with
it
that.
has an impact. It may not be a lot, but it has maybe
No.
enough to push you over the edge. Now, granted, they
agreed.
did beat Florida, and
Right.
Florida in the second half they looked lost.
And Florida took a big lead early on.
They did.
They were up, I believe, 16-4 or something like that. It was something pretty noticeable. I mean, and then UConn worked their way back. They fought back, and all of a sudden, like you said, they took control completely in the second half.
Yeah, UConn dominated in the second half. And they deserve Kevin Ollie, an unbelievable job coaching. This team.
Oh, go ahead. You can finish your thought.
I'm just saying, this team lost to Louisville by 33 at the end of the regular season. 33 to Louisville, and now look where they are now. That
Yeah.
turnaround that quick. You got to give all the credit to the head coach Kevin Ollie.
You know
all
what
the credit.
amazes me about Kevin Ali? His demeanor and how he expects to do it. You feel that from him? How he won't. I know a coach. What is he gonna do? He's not gonna come out and say, "Oh no, I didn't expect us to be here, and we're lucky in this and that." But just the way he carries himself is that he won't. He. It's almost like he strives to know that they should have beaten those teams. Florida, Michigan State, like he expected to beat them.
Well, every coach expects that. I mean, that I don't
know. I don't know about that.
I mean, I think that the players just love playing for Ollie. You look at after the game, I believe there was an interview where someone was trying to photobomb him after the game, and he slapped him when Kevin Ollie got off camera. He was like, "Come on, boy, don't do that," and he slapped him like a playful slap because he loves joking around with his kids.
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
players love playing for him. He gets down on the sideline, gets in that defensive stance because I heard him say in an interview that he likes getting a defensive stance because he likes to remember how he played in the NBA when he was in the NBA playing defense. As
Right.
it helps him understand the game more.
Right.
That's what I love about him is because he's so into the game when he coaches. He doesn't just stand there, arms folded like this, and examine, which works for some coaches. All the credit if you could sit down on the bench, analyze a game like that without being active. But Ollie, he makes himself active on the sideline. The players eat it up. It
Yeah.
gives them energy, and then obviously they love playing for him. And I think that's been an absolutely huge part of them going this far.
I agree with you. And when he's angry at them and yells at them and does what he has to do, he's a player's coach. Because he'll never. Some coaches out there really, they'll stick it to a player and not really give them the confidence they need then to pat him on the back. But you'll never see him ever yell at them and not give the guy a hug at the end or pat him on the back. It's important to have that. You don't want to go out there and play for a coach who you feel scared to make a mistake under. Obviously, you need somebody who does instill fear in you because you don't want to have a pushover, but you always want to have somebody who's in your corner and who's fighting for you and who the players can relate to, and I think that Kevin Ali does that well.
He does that incredibly well. Now to switching to Kentucky, we mentioned how UConn was able to beat teams. They didn't really have to wait for like a final shot, except for that St. Joe's game where where they won by 8 in overtime. But you look at this Kentucky team after they got the I believe it was 56-49 win against Kansas State in the opening round. They beat Wichita State by 2. Survived the last shot.
Yeah, which was arguably the best game in the whole tournament.
In my opinion, it was. They beat Louisville by 5 in a rivalry game, hotly contested throughout. Beat them by 5.
Which was an extremely big win.
They beat Michigan by 3. Aaron Harrison, huge shot. Unbelievable.
That was the last minute,
The last
45-minute jump triple, right?
Yeah, Aaron Harrison knocked down shot with seconds left. Gives them the win. Wisconsin, Aaron Harrison down by 2, takes a 3. Nick knocks it down from the same exact spot on the court that he knocked the shot down against Michigan. As I speak good English here. But again,
and out of all of that, doesn't it amaze you that these are freshmen?
They are hitting their peak at the exact right moment.
Yeah.
Coach Calipari could not ask for a better moment all season for them to finally have the light bulb moment that says, "Oh, this is how you play good college basketball."
Exactly. They had the potential, but they didn't put it together during the season, and now when they needed to. But the fact that you have freshman composed like that in moments to hit big shots like Harrison, both times that he did, and it's amazing. I mean, the Fab Five, so a team like that. This is not to me. This is something that's so impressive. The fact that they're freshmen, and obviously they're not the Fab Five, but they're certainly a team that has impressed with not only all those last second comebacks to win the game in the last seconds, but to do it all as freshmen. That just is amazing to me.
It's a phenomenal story. You got tons of storylines on each end. But before we go, we do have to pick a winner.
Well, I'm going to stick with because we picked last show. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
But you weren't able. But now you have to pick your new winner.
I do, because Florida did me dirty.
I'll stick with who I originally said. I said it'd be UConn against Kentucky, and I picked Kentucky to win. So I'm going to pick Kentucky to win.
I agree with you. I agree with you on this one. Listen, the story that UConn's had with Shabazz Napier has been fantastic, but I think that down low, while UConn's been able to handle the front court of, say, a Michigan State very well when they were undersized,
right.
I think that the athleticism of Kentucky down low is a little bit more purely athletic-wise than Michigan State.
I agree.
I mean, people can argue both ways. That's just in my mind.
And they crash the boards like nobody else.
Julius Randle's a double-double machine. I think that Kentucky will be able to handle it down low. I think this game's going to be pretty high scoring. I see maybe a 76-73 Kentucky win. That's the way I see it.
All right. No, I agree with you that Kentucky is going to come out on top. I agree with you that their athleticism down low is, I think that finally, also the fact that Napier and Boatwright are going to have a struggle now with the athleticism that's going to be, guarding them.
It's going to be the length of the Kentucky guards also going to be a problem for Napier. He hasn't played a backcourt that has the length that Kentucky has.
Now Napier is quick, and UConn knows how to get turnovers. But I agree that the Harrison twins aren't as quick, but they're bigger. And I think that the way that Kentucky the way they get offensive rebounds, they're one of the best at doing that. And I think that UConn is, something like, the stat is 247th nationally or something like that when it comes to offensive rebounds, which is not good. Not good at all. And Kentucky, plays at a very high level when it comes to that. So, that's going to translate to second chance points. And I think that the offensive rebounding is going to be a key in Kentucky winning, in my opinion.
It should be a good game. I want a good game. You want the championship to be exciting regardless of the finish. Again, I don't really have a vested rooting interest as to which team I want to see win. I just want to see a good game. That's what I really hope for in this one. And I think we'll get it. I think we will.
Absolutely. I think that hands down it's going to be close, but everybody will certainly enjoy it. In other college news, today, Steve Masiello, the Jaspers former head coach, who chose to sign with USF after leading the Jaspers to a MAC championship year and going on to a near upset against Louisville. He was offered the contract at USF. Obviously, the discrepancy was discovered in his resume that he did not graduate from Kentucky. He had approximately, I think they thought, 10 credits remaining to graduate, and they terminated the contract, and he was kind of left out there in the cold for a while. We hadn't heard from him. We hadn't heard from Manhattan. We hadn't heard from really anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Now we find out Manhattan is looking to reinstate him as the head coach of the Jaspers after he graduates from Kentucky.
Yes, he has been placed on unpaid leave until he completes his undergraduate degree at Kentucky. He will be retained by Manhattan, as you said. A quote from Steve Masiello: "I am extremely grateful and humbled by the opportunity to continue as the head coach of the basketball coach at Manhattan College. I made a mistake that could have cost me my job at an institution I love. Details matter." So yes, details do matter, in case you didn't know. But listen, I personally think this is a bad move by Manhattan. I don't like the idea that, first of all, you didn't notice this when you first hired him. I think that's an oversight on the athletic department at Manhattan that you don't notice that he didn't graduate. I think that's something you double check. It shouldn't be that long. That's just where you call up Kentucky and you be like, hey, can I get a copy of his transcript and his degree? Or you ask him, can I have a copy of your degree and your transcript? And maybe they did, maybe he lied. I don't know. Obviously don't know the backstory. But I don't think this is a good move. I think it's a great move for them basketball-wise because they're going to be good still. They're going to be a good program because he's a fantastic coach. But I think from a moral standpoint, you are a college basketball coach and you lied on your resume and you don't have a degree right now.
Yeah.
What is a parent going to say to you when you're in a living room trying to recruit that player saying, you lied on your resume, you didn't have a degree for this X amount of years that you coached, that you were a head coach? What can you say about that? What can you come up with that will change the parents' minds about that?
I mean, I agree with you. I think that to give you the backstory a little bit on Masiello and Manhattan not realizing right away, I think from what I've heard, he was an assistant coach there at Manhattan and helped out before he moved, or I don't know if he was an assistant coach. He helped out before he moved on to being an assistant of Pitino at Louisville. So when he came back to take the first head coach job at Manhattan, it's construed that possibly they just overlooked it since they had already had him in their system and said, we know this guy, so we're not going to thoroughly go through with procedure. That's what I've heard up until this point. But I agree with you. I think, though, that you said they're going to be a good basketball program now that he's back.
Well, granted, they are losing 3 starters and their 3 top scorers, so he's going to have a really tough job on his hand when he comes back.
No, right, yeah. But I want to ask you something. Do you think that his players are going to buy into completely what he told them after the way he led this team, the philosophy, the way he founded the team and built the foundation and everything he did? Is there no little bit of hesitation in these players' minds to buy into him again, to buy into what he's saying, to let him lead them again?
As much as Steve Masiello appears to be, let's just say, an unpersonable individual on the sideline, the players love playing for him. Yeah. You can see it in every huddle. They listen to every word. You talk to them after the game in a press conference, they will praise their coach. They love playing for him.
This was before.
But I
chose to leave Manhattan.
I think that the batch of players now, having played under him, will forgive him.
Yeah.
I think it's the players incoming that are going to have the problem as
they're going to walls up.
Yeah, it's going to be a little sketchy because the fact of the matter is, for him to come back after making headlines with ESPN, getting on a national television, pushing Louisville to the brink, and then having your name plastered over this controversy, you are now known as the coach who lied on his resume.
Right.
I think it's going to be hard because the players that come in and the players that are still there now are going to have to deal with the ridicule that Masiello is going to face every single road game he goes to.
That's true.
Imagine him coming to
Iona
next year.
the chance. Oh, boy.
Him coming to Iona next year is going to be an event to watch. Because I don't think the players will be watching. I don't think the audience will be watching the game. I think they'll be watching Masiello on the sideline sweat as they chant him for 40 straight minutes. Yeah, it's gonna be absolutely ridiculous.
I agree with you. I mean, no, that's absolutely right. But one thing that with his choice to leave Manhattan, you cannot crucify him for choosing to do that for the simple fact that that's how college basketball works. You do well, you get offered something that you can only accept as somebody watching him, take that offer because you need, as a person, you need to better your life. You need to better. He was going to make more money. He was going to move on.
He's going to make millions.
Yeah, to a better program. He has a family. He has a life. You can't, crucify him on that. What you can crucify him on is the fact that right before he accepted that deal, he engraved in everybody's mind that he loved Manhattan, that Manhattan was his home, that he was never going to leave them, that he was going to live and die with the Jaspers. And then he goes and takes that contract. So with that being said, to me, there's got to be just an awkward sense of disownment in players that have played under him and players that, obviously, like you said, that'll judge him coming in when he comes back.
I think educated sports fans have to know that when a coach says that or a player, it's with a grain of salt. because they're gonna say it to win over the fans. I think that educated fans know that yes, you may love playing here, but at the same time, money talks. You have to know that. Jerry
know,
Maguire,
yeah.
show me the money,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you got to do it. I mean, looking at a hockey thing, I believe Ryan Callahan said numerous times he loves playing in New York, and they couldn't agree to a contract extension, and then he was traded away from the Rangers. So I
That's
mean,
a re-
it's one of those things where you're good. You do love playing there. You're gonna miss it, but guess what? Sometimes it's a business, and you got to remember it's a business.
I understand that, and that's why I just said I would not crucify him for that at all. He's acceptable. It's acceptable to do that. It's his right to do that. What I'm talking about is the timing. How it was. You just beat. You just took Louisville to the
That's
brink.
why.
You had to be having on your radar that you may be getting an offer, a job offer somewhere else, something that you're going to spend your time up until that point where you just did that to Louisville, engraving and pounding into Manhattan fans' minds that Manhattan is where you'll always be, that you love them to death, that's everything to you, and then basically a day later, take a contract.
Listen, educated sports fans know that he was going to get a contract. If you're an educated Manhattan fan, you knew he wasn't going to be there long.
So then why is you as Masiello?
Because
why do you take that approach?
It doesn't mean it. Okay, just because he said it doesn't mean it's not like he wasn't lying when he said it. That's why I don't understand what you're saying, because he's gonna say it. Sure, you can't blame him for saying that because it's true. You can't blame. Do you want him to lie and say, I've enjoyed it at Manhattan, but it's been okay. I'm looking for other options now. No, you want him to be honest and say, guess what? He did love it there. But you listen, it's a business.
No, but
it's a business. He's gonna say that after press conference, after a tough loss. He's gonna say he loves his players. Gonna say he loves his team because it's true.
It is true. But you can't talk about Manhattan and your future. You can't say Manhattan is where I'm always going to be, and I will not leave Manhattan if you're going to leave them
Do you have a quote saying where he wants to stay in Manhattan for the rest of his career? Do you have a quote?
There were quotes.
Okay,
There were quotes.
you need to find me one.
Okay, let's look it up right now.
You need to find me
Well,
one.
I don't have service on my phone.
Well, why don't you bring your laptop?
Look, can you
No.
Google it for me?
No.
Oh, you're not going to find me my
No.
quote? Oh, that's mean.
Cranky Stanko strikes again.
Because I'm pretty sure I know the article too that he said it.
Listen. You cannot be angry at him for saying that because every coach has said it, and he's not the first one.
I will find you the article, and I will show you that article. Our next show of where he stated that Manhattan was where he was always going to be, and he would never leave them.
Well, maybe he meant spiritually. Maybe he meant my soul will always be in the sixth borough.
I mean, well then I don't want you if I'm US. I mean, if I'm the players there. But listen, I agree with you. I know that it's a business. I know, like I said, how did I start things off? That's what he needed to do. It's just that the way that he went about it, where it was, hours later that he accepted it after he passionately said he was going to stay with Manhattan, leads to me believing that, how are the athletes going to accept him back?
You know what's
what I'm
also crazy is that he might have said that, and guess what? He's a smart guy. He knows he's losing 3 starters next year. He knows his team is not as talented next year. He knows that his team is going to be, let's just say, not at the top of the preseason poll, I don't think.
Right.
Granted, they still might be in the upper half, but again, he's losing a lot of talent. He knew his team's not going to be as good next year. Like, he knows that, and that's obviously another reason why he accepted the job, because he'd rather go to a place where he has the expectation where it's going to take time to rebuild. But at Manhattan, you built the expectation of winning, and how are fans going to react when the team's not winning?
No, I agree. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I can't. I mean, he wanted to move on to a team that he could start. I guess, if you will, I guess start building,
mold into his own creation.
Exactly, mold into his creation, and not a team that he's going to be losing what he already molded.
Well, guess what? He may never get an opportunity to mold another team again after this entire scandal. So,
well, he's back though.
He may never get another opportunity to go to a big conference.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think that he's lucky to have a job.
I agree. I wouldn't have hired him, but hey, I'm not in that front office. I don't know what's going on.
There was a very fine line where it could have went the other way, and he could have been jobless in at least the college head coaching basketball market.
I wonder how he's going to complete his degree. Online classes? Probably online classes, right?
I mean, I hope he's not sitting in class with students.
I mean, I'm assuming it's online classes.
Right I would assume so, since they said he should get them done within the summer. So
Yeah,
Summer.
online classes it is. So Steve Mazziello will be sitting on his laptop at his kitchen table taking some online classes. I want to know what classes he's going to take. I want that to be reported. I want to know what
how to
classes
how to not lie on your resume.
Yeah, work etiquette. How about something like that? Work media law and ethics or something like that. Just a class about morality.
How to build a truthful resume.
Oh God, that'd be great. Oh, I'm really excited. I really hope that gets reported. I really do. I hope it's like pottery, an online pottery class.
Pottery. Well, I mean, Manhattan. The president of the college had made the statement that it was a how did he word it? It was a poor lack of good judgment that resulted in Masiello lying, and it wasn't an intentional action. So I don't know how he sees that. He said that he was on track to complete his degree, but just didn't follow up with it. So I don't see how that's not intentional. And it should, poor judgment. Isn't that the same thing as intention? Being. I know he didn't intentionally try to do anything to prevent himself from getting a job, but I don't know. To me, it's intentional that you didn't follow up with your degree.
It's a shady situation, but now it's been resolved. Whether we agree with it or not, doesn't matter. Manhattan's getting Steve Mazziello back hopefully after the summer, as long as he completes his degree, and I'm sure the Jaspers will double check this time.
You can say that again. But for opposites attract today, I think we're ready to bid farewell.
Get this shirt off of me.
And John will be able to take that shirt off and hand it back to me with all that sweat.
Spit on it after the show.
John Stanko has had a good day. We'll call it a good day in sarcastic terms with the Yankee. He's giving me a death stare. On that note, I'm going to put the music on and I'm going to say goodbye.
Wise decision, Anthony Carlo.
We'll see you next week.
It's a wise decision.
We'll see you next week, everyone.